there's always Cafe Milano. Is that going to remain the grand dame, do you think?
I think it's going to be the center of gravity as it always is during this administration. It's kind of like the White House itself. The presidents come and go, but
The
that
institution
place never
remains.
leaves. The institution remains. The other night, I just saw that they had an after party for the alfalfa dinner. It remains, the place to be seen if you want to end up in Politico playbook. And I don't think that place is going anywhere.
Well, as Trump's aides settle in at the White House, they have the option for lunch at the Navy Mess on campus. But dinner could be more interesting compared to the last time they were there, and that's because a bunch of new restaurants have opened around the White House and on Capitol Hill, and they are upscale food. One little known fact about Trump World is that some of the senior people are actually big foodies. Kash Patel, Trump's pick to be the next FBI director, and Scott Bessent, Trump's nominee to be the Treasury Secretary, were both spotted at Butterworth's this week, a new restaurant on Capitol Hill, where the food is unquestionably excellent. And we understand that one of the co-owners actually poached the head chef from a Michelin-starred kitchen, and the seasonal menu as a result is very good. But others have opened up too, across the entirety of DC. So to get the lowdown on where to go, I'm now joined by Andrew Zucker, who recently surveyed the scene for Town and Country magazine. So Andrew, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So what have you found here? There's actually quite a few new places, and they're kind of spread out all around DC, right?
There's a lot of new places, many of which actually come from New York, and one particular one comes from Los Angeles. But I think, as you know, with every new administration comes a new sense of the food scene. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens now that we're in Trump too. But Pastis just opened, which of course is Steven Starr and Keith McNally's restaurant from New York. Hugo, you and I actually had a dinner there. Their crispy artichokes were great. It looks exactly like the Pastis in New York City. It's actually quite shocking. And we loved our desserts. I had the chicken paillard. I think you had the French onion soup, maybe? What did you have?
No, that was not me. That was
Someone else.
That was someone else. But I actually don't remember what I had, but it was quite good. The other point, though, was as a result of pasties being so popular, I couldn't find a parking spot because I wasn't sure who was eating there that night, but there was a very heavy Secret Service presence outside, and all the SUVs were parked, and I couldn't find a parking spot. So I went around for a little bit, which was very annoying, but I think it's indicative of the political scene crashing into the restaurants. There's also Minetta Tavern, right?
Minetta Tavern, it's become a real hotspot. The bar upstairs has become especially popular amongst journalists. People obviously swear by the burger in New York, and they say it's delicious. It's got a custom blend in DC as well. Jonathan Capehart, who, the fixture in Washington, D.C., host of an MSNBC show and Washington Post associate editor, says it's one of his new favorite spots. I haven't tried it yet, but it's gotten a lot of big buzz.
Have you tried Osteria Mozza? That was the other place that you mentioned in your story that's new in Georgetown, right?
Yeah, so Osteria Mozza comes from Los Angeles. It comes from a famous West Coast chef, Nancy Silverton. She teamed up with Steven Starr, who basically seems to own the DC restaurant scene. And they took over the old Dean and DeLuca in Georgetown. It's a beautiful space. There's a beautiful private dining room. Obama was there the other night. Bezos has been there. Lauren Sanchez, of course, in tow.
And Will Lewis.
Will Lewis was there too? Yeah. I think Matt Murray might have been at that table as well. And
the rest of the Washington Post newsroom was not much to the chagrin of the rest of the newsroom, but
exactly, not going there. But the food is exceptional. I had the chopped salad; it was delicious. Their pizzas are great. They even have some nice pastries, banana bread, and coffee cake. And I think it's going to be a real spot. Obviously, it's a bit of a trek from Capitol Hill, but I could see it easily becoming one of the power spots in DC.
But what about Ned's Club? So there's a couple of new places around the White House. There's Ned's Club, which is the Soho House extension into DC, and there's also a Cafe Fiorello coming near the White House.
Yes. So Ned's Club, this is the fourth location of Ned's Club. As you said, it's a sister brand to Soho House. This is the only one without hotel rooms, but it does make up for it with its spectacular view of the White House. It's in that new Michael Milken building right across
Hmm.
the street.
It looks
And
over the
there,
Treasury Department, right?
exactly. There's a membership committee that's in full force right now, vetting applications. So get them in. I've heard that there's a pretty expensive tier to the membership if you want to be a founding member. Um, but
But not as much as
there's
Casa Cruz, presumably in New York, because that founding membership was insane.
yeah, it's hard to compete with that one. So, but as you know, DC real estate is going up, and so are DC membership prices, right? And then Cafe Fiorello, a staple of the Upper West Side, is opening right by the White House, I believe later this year. One of the realtors who helped get them the space, Bill Miller, really believes that it'll draw not only people who work in and around the White House, but also people from the surrounding area. I think it's going to be a real draw.
The Cafe Fiorello one's going to be interesting because it's kind of like a theater crowd. It attracts a theater crowd in New York because it's kind of near Broadway, but it's also near the Met, and so you get a lot of post Met opera or pre Met opera kind of dinners and kind of at and all of the surrounding Juilliard School and the rest of the complex. But the fact that it's going to be near the White House is quite intriguing. Finally, though, there's always Cafe Milano. Is that going to remain the grand dame, do you think?
I think it's going to be the center of gravity, as it always is during this administration. It's kind of like the White House itself. The presidents come and go, but
The
that
institution
place never
remains.
leaves. The institution remains. The other night, I just saw that they had an after party for the alfalfa dinner. It remains, the place to be seen if you want to end up in Politico playbook. And I don't think that place is going anywhere.
Well, they do a killer cacio pepe, but as all these restaurants open up, we'll have to go and try them all. It's great to have you talk about it. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.